royal shockwaves erupt across Britain as whispers grow louder. Queen Camilla has been quietly detained following her abrupt disappearance from public life. After King Charles III's tragic health decline and a dramatic power shift within the palace, insider sources claim Camilla is now facing legal scrutiny behind closed doors. Is this the final chapter in the royal consort's long controversial reign? With Prince William rising and public fury reignited, the monarchy is once again at the center of a storm. What began as a health crisis may now end in scandal, and possibly handcuffs. Is Camilla's crown about to crumble in court? King Charles collapses. When Buckingham Palace announced on February 5, 2025, that King Charles III was being treated for a manageable form of cancer, the statement was deliberately calm. Aides assured the public he was in good spirits and undergoing routine treatment. But what wasn't shared with the press was that just 72 hours earlier, the king had collapsed inside his private quarters at Sandringham. It took 2 full days before even senior staff were informed. A hidden medical crisis had begun behind the palace walls. Sources inside the royal household confirmed that Charles was monitored continuously for 3 days, with a rotating team of physicians brought in from St. Bartholomew's Hospital. He reportedly showed signs of memory lapses, intermittent tremors, and severe fatigue, a far cry from the routine care described in press briefings. One royal aide described seeing the monarch staring blankly at his reflection in a mirror for over 10 minutes, unable to recall the date. The truth was undeniable. The king was deteriorating, and quickly. By March 2025, those closest to him noticed a dramatic shift in behavior. Charles began speaking in finalities, frequently using phrases like "when I'm gone" or "before I leave this world." Most notably, he summoned Prince William to his study and handed him a sealed envelope with the words, "Now it's your turn, son." The gesture was deeply symbolic, an unspoken acknowledgement of transition. According to palace insiders, Charles even began organizing his private library for the next monarch. His retreat was total. Charles withdrew from all public duties by April 10th, and his appearances at Easter services and the state opening of Parliament were quietly cancelled. He now spends nearly all his time in his Clarence House study, surrounded by books and silence. The curtains remain drawn. His phone is answered only by aides. And while no official abdication has occurred, the king has faded from public life. His reign, in many ways, is already over. As King Charles receded behind palace walls, a quiet shift was taking place. The monarchy, bound by tradition but moved by necessity, began transferring power, not through fanfare, but through function. And at the center of it all was a prince long prepared for the crown. William quietly assumes power behind the scenes. In early April 2025, Operation Regency was discreetly activated. Designed to cover scenarios where the monarch remains alive but incapacitated, the protocol had only been tested in simulations until now. Prince William, aged 43, began chairing weekly Privy Council briefings, managing foreign correspondence, and overseeing military updates traditionally handled by the king. Though no formal statement was issued, behind palace gates the message was clear. William was now leading. The transition became most visible during the April 18th diplomatic reception at Windsor Castle. William arrived solo, then addressed leaders from 11 Commonwealth nations, a role traditionally reserved for the reigning monarch. Notably, Catherine appeared beside him, her first major public return since her own health ordeal. Though visibly slimmer, she stood tall, hand in hand with her husband. Her presence, one aide remarked, wasn't just symbolic. It was strategic. She reminded the world who the public could trust. Behind the scenes, a seismic shift was underway. Staff who once reported to Charles's private secretary now forwarded updates directly to William's team at Kensington Palace. In quiet conversation, aides began referring to him as the de facto king. Even international envoys addressed correspondence to Prince William, acting in sovereign capacity. It was an invisible coronation, unofficial but absolute. By May 2025, William controlled the palace's voice. All official communications, royal engagements, and scheduling passed through his desk. One aide described it succinctly. The monarchy didn't wait. It moved for a crown that had always clung to continuity. The shift was historic, and it was all happening in plain sight. But while one half of the monarchy quietly rose to power, another seemed curiously detached. As Charles weakened and William took the reins, the Queen, Camilla, chose a path that shocked even the most seasoned royal observers. Her absence wasn't just cold, it was calculated. Camilla's cold absence. Throughout March and April 2025, Queen Camilla was strangely visible, everywhere but where people expected her most. While Charles's health declined rapidly, she attended charity galas in Manchester, cut ribbons at Cheltenham, and appeared at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. Her smile remained fixed. Her schedule stayed packed, and the public began asking a chilling question. Where is the Queen when the King is crumbling? Sources inside the palace confirmed that Camilla refused to cancel her planned two-week visit to Scotland, even after being informed that Charles had suffered another health scare on March 29th. When confronted by senior aides, she reportedly said, "I can't stop my life for him." The quote, once leaked to the Daily Mirror, ignited national outrage. Headlines dubbed her the Vanishing Queen. Hashtags like #ColdCamilla and #AbsentConsort began trending across Twitter and Instagram. Adding to the public confusion was the absence of any joint appearances. Not a single photo emerged of Camilla sitting beside Charles in hospital or even visiting his private chambers. In contrast, William and Catherine were seen visiting Clarence House at least 5 times during April alone. Camilla, in stark contrast, kept her distance. It wasn't just noticed, it was resented. Behind closed doors, tensions reached a boiling point. Princess Anne and Prince Edward, both lifelong defenders of tradition, reportedly confronted Camilla directly. "You have a duty," Anne was said to have declared during a tense meeting at Balmoral. "If you won't stand beside him, then stand aside." But Camilla didn't change course, and her coldness became not just a family issue, but a national one. The power grab. By May 2025, palace insiders began whispering of something even more troubling than indifference: Queen Camilla's interference. Despite the king's declining health and William's quiet control, Camilla began inserting herself into confidential meetings. On May 14th, she appeared, uninvited, at a state briefing on foreign defense chaired by Prince William. Attendees later confirmed she arrived 12 minutes late, carrying her own notes and demanding access to restricted policy files. "It was audacious," said one aide. "She acted as though she were the sovereign herself." In the days that followed, Camilla escalated her behavior. She instructed senior staff in the Lord Chamberlain's office to reroute royal communications through her team. She even attempted to alter William and Catherine's schedule for an event in Birmingham, moving it to conflict with her own engagement. "It was chaos," said a longtime aide. Suddenly, no one knew who to follow. By May 18th, internal messages circulated that Camilla's authority was to be disregarded. A silent rebellion was brewing. The tipping point came when a private memo surfaced, bearing Camilla's signature, requesting temporary operational control of palace duties while Charles recuperates indefinitely. The document, leaked to a BBC political correspondent, sent shockwaves through Whitehall. Within hours, royal staff aligned firmly with William. During a tense confrontation in the Buckingham Palace Green Drawing Room, William addressed senior aides with an unmistakable edge. "No one speaks for the crown but me now." The statement, confirmed by 3 independent sources, marked the quiet end of Camilla's influence. In the aftermath, Princess Anne publicly supported William. During a discreet family meeting on May 21st, she turned to Camilla and said the words that froze the room. "This isn't your role." It never was. For the first time since her marriage to Charles, Camilla stood alone within the family. The woman once dubbed Queen Consort had become a liability. Her power play had failed, and the palace had chosen its future. But William knew Camilla's removal couldn't be managed by aides or whispered alliances. The monarchy demanded clarity, and only one man could deliver it. What followed was one of the most emotional confrontations ever to unfold between father and son behind palace doors. William's ultimatum to the king. On May 25, 2025, Prince William requested a private meeting with King Charles inside Clarence House. The king, weakened but lucid, received him shortly after 7 p.m. According to an aide, the meeting lasted nearly 2 hours and was conducted without advisors, cameras, or notes. It began respectfully, but ended with tears. William, firm but emotional, laid everything bare. "She's damaging the institution, Father. She's isolating you, and she's dividing us all." He came armed with facts, not anger. William presented polling data showing 68% of Britons believed Camilla was unfit to represent the monarchy. He showed headlines from The Times, The Daily Mail, and Sky News, highlighting growing resentment toward her. Then, softly, he invoked Catherine's name. "When my wife was ill, she stood by her family. Camilla fled when you needed her most." Those words, witnesses say, broke the king's composure. He lowered his head, covering his eyes with trembling hands. For nearly 5 minutes, silence filled the study. Then Charles reportedly whispered, "I made promises, to her and to your mother's memory. I've failed them both." When William responded, his voice cracked. "Then make one more promise, to the crown." To the country, it was both plea and ultimatum. Aides outside the room later recalled muffled voices, then nothing but stillness. When William finally emerged at 9:12 p.m., his face was pale but resolute. "It's done," he said quietly. Within 48 hours, palace sources confirmed that Camilla's future was being reassessed. Her public schedule was suspended indefinitely. The official explanation cited personal reflection. But those close to the situation knew the truth. A deal had been struck. William's ultimatum had succeeded. The Queen's era was over, and Charles, devastated but resigned, had chosen his son's vision of the monarchy over his own heart. When royal history is written, what happened next will likely be remembered not as scandal, but as necessity. There was no announcement, no ceremony, no fanfare, only an early morning departure that changed the face of the monarchy forever. The silent eviction. At 5:42 a.m. on June 2, 2025, palace security cameras captured Queen Camilla, leaving Buckingham Palace through a side entrance near Constitution Hill. She wore a navy coat, no makeup, and carried a small leather bag. There was no entourage, no waving farewell. Her private secretary followed behind with 2 sealed trunks, each marked with gold initials. C.R. Camilla Regina. It was the quietest royal exit since Edward VIII's 1936 abdication, and just as consequential. Within hours, her royal household accounts were frozen. Access codes to Clarence House and Windsor offices were changed. Her personal security detail, once staffed by 8 officers, was reduced to 2. The message was unmistakable. Camilla's reign was over. An internal memo circulated among staff that morning read simply, "Her Majesty will be residing at Ray Mill House until further notice." No one dared reply. Even longtime aides who had served her since 2005 were instructed to stand down. By June 3rd, moving vans were spotted outside Ray Mill House, her private residence in Wiltshire. Neighbors described her as ashen but composed. One observer told the Telegraph that Camilla personally supervised the unloading of boxes marked personal letters and duchy papers. There was no royal escort, no farewell ceremony, not even a statement from the king. The silence spoke louder than any press release could. Inside the palace, life went on. Staff were quietly reminded that Her Majesty the Queen now referred exclusively to Catherine. Aides began removing Camilla's portraits from secondary corridors and replacing them with images of William and Catherine taken during their 2024 anniversary tour. The transition was seamless and absolute. Without a single word spoken, Camilla had been erased from the machinery of monarchy. The woman who once fought to be accepted was now history, vanishing into exile and silence. The monarchy's inner walls had shifted, but the outside world had only just begun to react. Within hours of Camilla's departure, the internet exploded, turning a royal crisis into a global reckoning. What followed was a digital storm unlike anything the Crown had ever faced. The internet explodes. By 8 a.m. on June 2nd, 2025, the first photos of Queen Camilla leaving Buckingham Palace hit social media. Within 90 minutes, the hashtag thrown out was trending worldwide. On X, formerly Twitter, users shared side-by-side images of Camilla's early royal appearances and Princess Diana's 1995 panorama interview, with captions like "One loved by the people." One never accepted the digital verdict was swift and brutal. Camilla hadn't just exited the palace. She had been publicly rejected. UK tabloids moved with lightning speed. The Daily Mail headline screamed, "Queen no more." The Sun led with "Justice for Diana," while the Mirror splashed, "The Crown reclaimed." Across 72 front pages, the focus wasn't on Charles or even William. It was Diana. Videos of her comforting children, shaking hands with AIDS patients, and walking minefields in Angola, 1997, resurfaced with tens of millions of views. For many, the moment wasn't about royal politics. It was long-awaited emotional closure. Public polling taken on June 3, 2025, showed a 12-point jump in support for William and Catherine, now favored by 81% of Britons. Sympathy for King Charles also climbed by 9 points, with many describing him as a tragic figure. Meanwhile, Camilla's favorability rating plummeted to 17%, the lowest for any senior royal since Prince Andrew's 2019 scandal. One political analyst told BBC Newsnight, "This isn't a rebranding. This is a royal reckoning." In cultural commentary, Camilla's erasure was near total. Documentaries were pulled, official biographies were edited. A planned June 15th appearance at Royal Ascot was cancelled indefinitely. Even palace staff reportedly removed her monogrammed stationery from Clarence House offices. One royal historian summed it up on Channel 4. She was tolerated, never loved, and now never missed. The Queen had become a ghost, and the public was ready to forget she had ever been. But even the removal of a queen requires a label. As palace protocol took hold, a quiet but brutal decision was made. Camilla would not be called Queen Consort, nor simply Camilla, but something colder, something final. Camilla's final title. On June 6, 2025, the palace issued a 5-line bulletin. Buried beneath an announcement about trooping the color, it read, "Her Majesty Queen Camilla will henceforth be referred to as Her Majesty the Dowager Queen, following adjustments to the royal household structure." There was no explanation, no fanfare, just a title, a demotion wrapped in formality. The implications were unmistakable. In British royal tradition, Dowager Queen is a label used for widowed queens, symbolically signaling the end of their influence. But Charles was still alive. Camilla's new title was not about grief. It was about removal. By June 8th, her public schedule was cleared. Her final appearance, at a small charity garden opening in Wiltshire, lasted 14 minutes. She spoke only once. Her farewell was not royal, it was rural. Behind the scenes, Camilla sought one final chance at redemption. She requested permission to attend the June 17th Windsor State Dinner, citing her status as Queen Mother to the nation. The request reached King Charles, who paused, then declined. His private note to aides read simply, "Not this time." It was a devastating blow, not just exclusion from a table, but from the royal narrative itself. Inside the firm, Princess Anne made sure the door stayed closed. In an extraordinary show of authority, she reportedly called Camilla directly, saying, "You are no longer part of this. Let it go." Camilla hung up without reply, and so it ended, not with scandal, but with silence. Her brief reign had become a footnote, rewritten by duty, sealed by the next generation, and buried by the people. As one woman faded from the palace story, another name resurfaced: Diana. And in the king's final private gesture, it was not power he passed down, but something more fragile: the hope for healing between the sons his choices once divided. Charles's final act. In early July 2025, King Charles III, now physically frail and rarely seen, dispatched 2 identical envelopes, one to Prince William at Kensington Palace, the other to Prince Harry in Montecito, California. Each was handwritten and bore the seal of the crown. On the outside, "Protect each other." Inside, no royal orders, no titles, just a father's voice, trying, perhaps too late, to repair the damage left in his wake. According to sources close to the palace, Charles wrote of regret, brotherhood, and forgiveness. "You were both born into a story neither of you wrote. But you can write the ending," he penned. William reportedly read the letter aloud to Catherine the night it arrived. He said little, just wiped a tear and placed it in a wooden keepsake box labeled "Papa It Was," aides said, the first time William wept openly since Diana's funeral in 1997. In Montecito, Harry received his letter during a quiet breakfast. He was seen later that evening walking alone along the California coast, deep in thought. While no public statement followed, royal insiders claimed there was a brief call between the brothers on July 10th. short, civil, and cautious. Still, it was a flicker of hope. The final wish of a fading king may yet pull his fractured sons back together. King Charles has not appeared publicly since June 24th, his coronation anniversary. Palace insiders now say he spends his days in the Clarence House Library, surrounded by books, music, and fading sunlight. His reign may continue in name, but his final act was not regal. It was paternal. He didn't end his story with authority. He ended it with love. And so, without a funeral, without a coronation, the crown quietly changed hands. No trumpets sounded, no crowds gathered. But the people already knew. William and Catherine were no longer waiting in the wings. They were leading. A new reign begins. By August 1st, 2025, every major UK paper referred to Prince William and Princess Catherine as the de facto royal leaders. Though King Charles remained sovereign in name, the real power had shifted. There was no formal proclamation, no investiture, just quiet presence. From hospital visits in Leeds to a spontaneous walkabout in Cardiff, William and Catherine's new reign was one of action, not words. What truly sealed the public's loyalty was a single quote. During a July 28th visit to a cancer recovery center, Catherine was asked how the family was coping. She paused, smiled softly, and said, "We're all healing in our own ways." The moment went viral, reposted over 50 million times in 4 days, and quoted across 32 news outlets. For many, it wasn't just a comment. It was the guiding ethos of the modern monarchy. International response followed quickly. Canadian Prime Minister Olivia Bennet addressed correspondence directly to William. Australia's Governor-General held a private video call with him on August 3rd, referring to him as the acting monarch. Even the President of France reportedly sent a handwritten note addressed to Their Royal Highnesses William and Catherine, our partners in peace. The world was adapting faster than the palace. Inside the firm, things were already transforming. Staff now used Their Majesties when referencing the couple. William's face replaced Charles's on briefing room portraits. Aides whispered that a 2026 coronation was being quietly planned. But for the people, the shift had already occurred. The monarchy no longer wore a crown of tradition. It wore one of trust. And it rested, securely, on two heads, bowed not in pride, but in purpose. Whether Camilla has truly been arrested or merely removed under internal investigation, as one unnamed palace source phrased it, the optics are damning. After months of silence, vanishing from the royal circuit, and the unexplained severance of her official duties, this latest rumor has given the public exactly what they've long suspected: that Queen Camilla's fall from grace was not just emotional or political, but potentially criminal. Fueling speculation is the lack of any formal denial. The palace's standard no-comment approach has only intensified curiosity. Meanwhile, legal analysts note that Camilla, though unelected and unofficially dethroned, is not immune to legal scrutiny. If she inserted herself into restricted affairs during King Charles's compromised mental state, questions of abuse of power, coercion, or even obstruction may be on the table. But beyond legalities lies something more potent: public fury. Social media remains ablaze with hashtags like #ArrestCamilla, #JusticeForDiana, and #QueenNoMore. Even royal loyalists, once defenders of tradition, are calling for answers. She manipulated her way in, And now she's trying to claw her way out, wrote one user on Royal Watch UKO, a forum with over 4 million members. Trust has been shattered. Meanwhile, Prince William and Princess Catherine continue their quiet, dignified ascent, visiting charities, comforting grieving families, and offering a steady hand unto a monarchy in upheaval. Their silence on Camilla speaks volumes. The contrast is clear, and the public has already chosen its side. If Camilla was indeed detained, or even just interrogated, it marks an unprecedented moment in royal history. A queen consort, once shielded by tradition, may now face accountability. And whether behind palace doors or under a public lens, her legacy is unraveling in real time.